Let me ask you a question. If I handed you a single dollar today, would you treat it differently depending on your age? Because here's the truth. The same $1 could be worth as much as $88 or just $2. The real problem is people don't understand how powerful a single dollar is at a young age. Today, we're going to be referencing the Millionaire Mission book written by Brian Preston, and he breaks down this concept in a way that completely changes how you look at investing, especially when you're at a young age. And so today's episode, I'm going to show you exactly how much each dollar is worth, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s, and why one simple strategy, what he calls always be buying, can be the key to quietly building serious wealth over time and eventually make you a multi-millionaire. So welcome back to the Fiscal Clinician Podcast, where we help healthcare professionals build wealth, crush debt, and achieve financial independence. I'm your host, Josh Sheen, Doctor of Physical Therapy and financial coach. And today we're going to be talking about the Millionaire Mission, written by Brian Preston, who some of you may be familiar with his work. He's one of the money guys. So if you guys haven't checked out the money guys, you should definitely do that. And now Brian breaks down something very powerful in this book, specifically in chapter 3 of the book. And he talks about how every dollar has a future value. Here's what I want you guys to think about: opportunity cost. What I mean is that if you spent money on a certain thing, maybe it's a couple $100s, I want you to think about what could this money have been if instead of buying this material possession, I invested it in the market and waited several years, several decades even. And so an example is, let's say you bought something for $150. If we look at a period of about 30 years, if the investment was making 10% per year on average, that $150 would have turned into $2,600. And this isn't to say this is what you should do with every purchase. We also want you guys to enjoy your money and have fun with your money. But it is worth asking, what is the entire cost of that purchase? Is it going to cost you more working time in your later years? Or is it even going to cost you part of your dream in your retirement? And I loved Brian's line in this book because it helps keep us focused on our why. It's so important to have a really good why for your finances. Otherwise, what's the point of you investing at all, right? And this is the quote he says: "Imagine investing a small part of today to live a future beyond your wildest dreams." And this is what I want us to keep our eyes focused on. Is we shouldn't be stashing away thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars a month with no vision of what we're doing that towards. Because if you don't have a vision, you're quickly going to lose sight of why you're saving money in the first place. Regardless of what it is, nail down your why. So let's look at some core examples of how much is a dollar worth depending on your age. So if we look at someone in their 20s, $1 has the potential to become $88 by retirement age. And if we look at an employer match as well, and Brian talks about this in chapter 3, and if we look at that same individual and they get a percentage match from their 401k, that same $1 could become $176. This isn't because you're investing more. It's because your money can work harder for you in your 20s and because your money has more time to compound. And so again, $88 for every $1, or with that match, $176. And the message for this age group is very simple: start. Just start investing, start automating your investments, even if it's something really small, putting away $25, $50, $100 a month, because right now your dollars are worth more than they ever will be. Let's move on to someone in their 30s. For every dollar you put in, you could potentially have 25. If they had a 401k match, then that $1 could be worth even $50. And now, what's the message for this age group? It's still powerful. If you could get a 25% return on any investment, you'd be very happy, right? But consistency is starting to matter a lot more now. And so we want you to have all your investments automated, and you're pouring more and more money into those investments. Now, what about in your 40s? In your 40s, every $1 has a potential to grow to about $8. And with a match from the 401k, that 8 goes to $16. Again, though, we see a huge contrast. You're comparing someone in their 20s with $88 versus now 8, and you're talking about 11 times more valuable, right? But it's still never too late to start investing and to build the future that you deserve. And so at this age, we're now relying less on time and more on discipline and the income that you're bringing in. Now let's talk about finally your 50s. For every $1, that could potentially grow to about $3. With the match, you're looking at closer to $6. At this point, though, every dollar still matters, but the heavy lifting is coming from the principal and the amount that you're putting in. Some key takeaways: the earlier you invest, the harder your dollars work, so you don't have to work as hard later. And again, your dollars are worth more now than they ever will be for anyone, because we're aging, right? And so each day, each month, the dollar is going to decrease just slightly, right? And so that's why it's so important to start in your 20s and 30s. And now if you're listening to this and thinking, I know I need to start, I just don't know how, this is exactly what I help people with. Setting up a monthly financial plan to see how much should we put towards some investments, how much should we be spending on groceries and housing. I work one-on-one specifically with healthcare professionals to build a clear monthly financial plan. So if you want help turning this into a real-life plan for your situation, you can schedule a free 15-minute consult in the link in the description below, or you can go to fiscalclinician.com to schedule and learn more. So let's move on to dollar cost averaging, or as Brian says in his book, always be buying. He calls it ABB, always be buying. Now, what is this? Well, dollar cost averaging is basically just a concept that says, I'm going to set aside this amount of money per month to put into investments. Could be something like $200, and you're putting that in a certain fund to invest for retirement or for your future. Now, Brian is essentially saying the same thing in that you always want to be buying investments. Now, what happens is a lot of people try to time the market. Ideally, if we knew everything, you would want to buy at a low of the market because you get as much for your value as possible, and you want to sell at a high. The problem is we don't have any idea what the market's going to do. There's a lot of people who try to either day trade or trade weekly, attempting to hit these marks, but a large percentage, both of professional and non-professional traders, end up losing money at the end of the day. And so what's more important is you consistently investing over time. Instead of trying to time the market, we want you to have significant time in the market. Every time you get a paycheck, this is an investment opportunity for you to grow your money. The important thing to know, when you're dollar cost averaging, some months you're buying high, some months you're going to be buying low. But over time, you're getting an average of those highs and lows meeting right in the middle. And so you're taking advantage of the lows. You might be buying a little high sometimes, but that's okay. And so this is where we want to talk about being systematic with your investments. Now, if you haven't checked out episode 12 of the Fiscal Clinician podcast, it's all about investing. Go check that out. We talk about the SOAP method of investing. And what does this mean? Specifically with the S, we want you to be systematic with your investments. And all we mean by this is we want to automate it. So make sure you automate your investments, whether they're coming out of your 401k, Roth IRA, where you never have to think about anything, but it comes out by default. And why does this work? Well, it removes emotion from the picture. It builds discipline, but it also removes discipline. Because if you never have to think about the investment and it just happens, you don't have to remember. And the last thing is it takes advantage of market dips. Because when the market does decline, everybody's losing their mind, you're still buying. And in fact, you're really getting a discount on those investments. And so let me emphasize, wealth isn't built by perfect timing. It's built by consistent behavior. I'll say that again. Wealth isn't built by perfect timing. It's built by consistent behavior. And this is what you see in the habits of millionaires. And it's from years and years of them being really consistent. And so when you look at a dollar, don't just see $1. See $88, $25, depending on your age. So your age determines your leverage, but your behavior determines your outcome. And so if you're in your 20s, the focus is simple. Just start investing something, even if it's a small amount. If you're in your 30s, it's time to start getting consistent, start automating everything. And as your paychecks grow, you're delegating more and more into your investments. If you're in your 40s, it's time to get a little more aggressive and intentional, trying to put more and more money away. And if you're in your 50s, we want to maximize every opportunity to put away just because you're nearing retirement. And so again, Brian Preston in his book, The Millionaire Mission, says, always be buying. And why is this? He says every dollar you invest today is a small step towards living a future life beyond your wildest dreams. So guys, focus on your retirement. What do you want it to look like? Where do you want to live? Get that vision and that why locked in so you can start investing more aggressively and live the life that you want and deserve. Well, thanks for joining us on the Fiscal Clinician podcast today. If you haven't already, like and subscribe and share it with a healthcare professional you know needs the help.